welcome back to Bernama. Today, my guest in the studio with me is the very dashing but very smart Mr. Alan Poon, who is the founder of Superior Wealth Mastery. And today, we're talking about an alternative to affordable housing. I'm sure that's a topic everybody might be interested in. Welcome to the show, Alan. How are you today?
Good morning, Jessie. Thank you for having me here.
Well, pleasure, and I'm really excited to start a discussion. But first up, perhaps we can hear a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got into this line of work.
Well, basically, I'm a trainer and an investor. So my journey started like 15 years ago when I went to property investing, but it was not a smooth sailing journey. So I started quite in a rocky stage whereby I bought an off-plan product. It's a double-story link house. And at that time, there was no information or seminars about it. So we went in without much information. So when I went in there, in fact, I got caught up with 7 years of downtime.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you say downtime? What do you mean by downtime?
I was supposed to get the key 2 years after the construction stage, but there was a late delivery in terms of the certificate of fitness, as well as I couldn't rent or sell because it was quite a far away place, and things were not right, and it was quite sad, like in a sense.
So it wasn't an investment in the end. It became.
In the end, I'm thankful that I did not actually liquidate my property. I hang on to it until around 2008. That was my turning point because I actually refinanced the house with a little bit of knowledge that I had at the time, and it went well because I went into the unknown market. Most people do not want to talk about it, which is the auction property market. So I went in there. I won my first bid without any competition. And of course, to cut the long story short, I've been doing this for the last 8 years.
8 years, yes. That's right. Now, of course, you've grown leaps and bounds since then, and you've got all the knowledge now at the tip of your fingertips. An alternative to affordable housing. Now, you mentioned why is this becoming something that everybody might be looking at now, the auction properties, and why does it have a bad image to begin with?
Okay, let me start by actually explaining the bad perspective. I think in the Malaysian context, auction has been labelled as an area that we do not want to go into. People would prefer to go into the primary market as well as the secondary market. But auction is basically a scenario where people actually loses their house because they couldn't pay off the loan or mortgage that they have. So to me, I would say more awareness is needed in that sense to tell people that auction present as an alternative. See, while waiting for the right project to come up in certain areas or to get the right deal in the secondary market, there is plenty of auction happening every day. In fact, almost daily.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And where can one go to look for this besides the classifieds in the newspapers?
Well, of course, we can be getting our neighborhood agents and friends, and nowadays it's very easy because you can find a lot of listings online. So this definitely would attract, I would say, the market, because at the current stage, people are talking prices are getting higher and higher.
That's right. If you look at the current landscape, the current affair of things, it does seem that property prices are increasing. There are these very posh new developments that are coming up. They are very expensive. People who buy may not be able to sustain that long, so on and so forth. And for numerous reasons, these wonderful properties might fall in the hands of the banks and thereof be auctioned. What are some of your tips for someone looking for an auction property so that they land the right deal?
Well, I would believe they have to start by educating themselves. Reading is one thing, but like myself, I am conducting a 2 days workshop, so it's going to be good if they can come to seminars to really look beyond just from theories. It will be good for them to run through and network with the right people in the industry, especially the do's and don'ts, and most importantly, not to get their money loose in the market. It's always good to be in a simulated environment first.
Is the investment market always a safe market, especially now when you're dealing with auction properties?
I would say that if we know what to do, especially when it comes to properties as auction properties, it is about knowing how to enter and with the right and proper exit strategies. Then so investment will be very safe.
It does boil down to knowledge. What is your market outlook, Alan, for 2016? We've just started a brand new year. A lot of people have perhaps put down a new property in their, New Year list, their achievements for 2016, what would some of your observations be of the market?
Okay, in the Malaysian context, I would say 2016 is going to be a challenging year.
It's a dangerous word when they say interesting and challenging, because
yeah.
Which way is it going to go?
I am looking forward in the sense that when there is always an uncertain times, I wouldn't call it a crisis, there is bound to be also opportunity. So for perhaps the seasoned investors, they would be looking at this time where they can actually look for deals that surface during this period. Whereas for newbies, I think there's also a good time where they can involve into education more to get to know about the landscape before they go into the market. Yeah.
We see some images here of you and some of your team members. Do tell us a little bit about the training that is upcoming when's at the end of the month?
I'm actually conducting a 2 days auction property intensive workshop. The next upcoming one will be on the 19th and 20th of March.
19th and 20th of March, okay, that's some time away. So for all of you interested, you can go to facebook.com/Superior Wealth Mastery to get more information on that training. Where is it located, and does it have a cost to it?
Yes, basically the 2 days are structured in a way that I will be fully conducting it personally myself, and it will be more of a personal sharing, and there will be a lot of games. More importantly, we will simulate the actual bidding games. In that context also, we will use real money in the 2 days.
Oh dear.
Yes, I always believe that money increases intelligence. So the event will be held in Zenith Corporate Park, where we have the 2 days, and we will welcome people who are keen to actually come forward to us, to get to know more about the industry.
What about the first-time home, those who want to buy their first houses, first-time home buyers, whether mostly assuming that they are younger, what would be the right advice for them, and would an auction property also be something that they could consider?
Yes, definitely, why not? I believe the young people are very fortunate these days. They have access to information, unlike our time where they can just, with a click of a mouse, they can go to Google. First advice to them was basically not to lose money, just like in any other investment, particularly in auction property. There are do's and don'ts involved, so get to know them. And of course, the best would be to go for seminars and get to know about the market well enough. What do they want objectively, and not just look at the price point.
But that will always be, something at the price point will always be what buyers will be wondering. Oh, no discount. Can we get this knocked off, that knocked off? Are those on auction always cheaper than what you get readily out in the market? Is that just an assumption?
Actually, you are right. A lot of people say that it's cheap, but it's not too cheap, because when people bid, it can kind of go up. But in a sense, auction actually happen every day, and most of them go unnoticed. So in a sense, auction property presents a below market value, I would say even up to 30 or 40% below the market.
That is huge.
Yeah, so for those people who are actually having more time to spend on this area, I believe they can find what they want.
Is there a right way to go about this? Because I've heard some people say, oh, I've got a friend, he's got some auction thing, a very secret thing, as if, there's like a secret society for this. Is there a proper channel to ensure that the property you are getting is legal and following the right way?
Well, by law, every single auction property has to be in advertisement. I believe that they can go through channels like the banks or the auctioneers. And in fact, coming up in July, there will be this e-bidding process that's going to perhaps revolutionize the industry. So I guess more and more things are coming up, and it's supposed to be more effective and more transparent.
You basically buy your house online at the click of the mouse.
Yeah, when it happens, I believe it is going to actually change the market in terms of, number one, the auction perspective, as well as more people can access to this unknown market, where people are losing their house at the same time someone is gaining
their house. That's right. Because I think for a lot of time we look at, when we buy a house, we want it brand new, or we want to buy it from someone we know, and that's always been sort of the mindset. Have you seen the mindset shift a lot, or is this still an issue that we have?
Well, I guess every single market has its own pros and cons. Definitely everyone wants to go into their new house, brand new, but it depends on the objective at the end of the day. If the person is looking into the investment point per se, then every single figure, every single calculation financially, whether can they manage their loan after purchasing, that actually boils back down to whether they can afford it in the first place. But of course, if you are finding a home, that is a different perspective altogether.
That's right, from an investment or for a home, whether it's long term or short term. Also, what about bank loans on these kind of houses? Would it be difficult to get or easier to get your bank loans?
For the bank financing part, I believe it is still back to the banking guidelines. So that is the reason why people who are more educated in that sense, by basically coming to my seminar, they can get to know certain checklists and certain criteria to not fall into the trap of once you win a bid, you can't get a loan. That is one of the biggest fear for most people when they go into auction.
That's right.
So it is, I have this passion to create this awareness to ensure that people know what to do before they go into the auction market.
A little bit of perhaps tips or some advice for all the potential buyers out there, or people who perhaps are thinking, hey, I might need to put my house on auction.
You're talking from the perspective of the buyer and the seller.
That's right.
Yeah, I guess we have to look into both a different point of view. From the buyer's perspective, it is always good that if you can access the house and look into different criteria. But at the same time, I would also say that being responsible financially is also important, because as much as we want to hunt for auction properties, we do not want to go into the scenario where we are losing our property.
That's right.
Yeah. So
find out the reasons also why that house is being auctioned, right? You need to do your due research.
Due diligence.
Due diligence, as they call it, definitely. Are there any updates in the market in terms of any kind of policies?
I think we had the news early this year where there's a change. There's going to be a change in the process of auction, public auction in High Court, whereby the e-bidding or online bidding process will take place sometime in July. Well, the idea was mooted in September 2014. I foresee that this will actually be very good. All right. Of course, we have yet to see the implementation due in July. But if it's going to be happening, we will avoid a lot of collusion, as well as perhaps prevent syndicates to basically intimidate the prospective bidders. Yeah. But on the other side of the coin would be perhaps the auction agents might lose their potential earning commission.
That's right. Agents are at the
e-bidding starts.
Yes. I think we've seen that also when we have got these online websites or portals, and they also highlight a lot of the houses that are on sale, and sometimes agents do get sidelined for that. Now let's look at what is your advice for those who are keen to know more about some property investing.
But there are plenty of exhibition seminars going around. I always believe in the need for education, including myself. Currently, I'm still investing and I'm keeping myself abreast with the market changes and education seminars. So it is important for them to really get themselves close to the market, the stakeholders. Informations like those in the news, as well as, of course, international happenings. Currently, property itself is not just the market in terms of the property, but we are affected by the global economic scenario.
That's right. Yep. All the different types of the landscapes of your economy and politics and the law and everything comes into play as well. I wanted to ask you, is there a certain area that there are more auctions, perhaps more in the Klang Valley, or do you see it more around other states or particular state? And if one was willing to invest, where would be that focus area, or where would you recommend them to buy that property? I
wouldn't want to basically focus on one single area, because different investors or different buyers will have different reasons and objective into going into property purchase. But I would say more and more auction property could surface in certain selected targeted areas where there could be an oversupply. This could perhaps be due to speculators in the past few years who went into the market without much of a holding power. Or perhaps they could be under distress or over-geared in terms of their financing. And of course, the one that we do not want to happen is if they loses their job due to the crisis or economic crisis,
There's
that
a
is
lot of
looming.
factors there that come into play.
So I would say be alert, and if you know your target market area well, you should be able to identify the areas or the product type that you want to go in from the platform of auction property.
And also, if I could add, I think one of the important things as someone who is a house owner, you need to be able to sustain, because if you can't,
Yes.
then even if you had the best, auction property or the best investment, it's still not going to favor you that way,
True.
right?
That's
Well,
true.
thank you so much, Alan, for being on the show. Once again, for
Thank you
those
very
of you
much.
who would like to visit the website or get more information about the trainings that's coming up, it is facebook.com/Superior Wealth Mastery, and you can find all the updates from Alan. That's all the time we have for today. Have a wonderful day ahead, and we will see you on the show tomorrow. Bye-bye.